We appreciate the investment you're making in us and are confident this presentation will provide value to you. I just wanted to give a quick update on Intellitec Solutions for those of you that might not be aware of who we are. We're a premier provider of accounting ERP solutions. We've been supporting our clients on these different applications since 1986. So we have a wealth of experienced employees on board and many, many long-term relationships with our clients, some spanning 25+ years. We do have physical office location. Our main corporate headquarters is here in Wilmington, Delaware, as well as Vienna, Virginia, and Reading, Pennsylvania. Our philosophy has been and is that we recognize our clients' needs. We are not a group that's just looking to sell software licenses. We're really focused on providing our clients a solution that really enables them to be successful in servicing their clients and one that's appropriate fit. We do have 100% commitment on our team to make sure that we support the software to the best of our abilities and deliver A-level service. And we have a complete dedication to our core values, which are act with honesty and integrity at all times, embrace a client-for-life approach, and provide efficient and intelligent technology solutions to our clients so they can be successful. We do have a proven implementation methodology where we define the scope of what the implementation would be. It's very hard to have a successful implementation unless all parties agree this is our point A and where our point B goal is to end up. So we do a very good job of defining the scope, developing a plan that will enable us to be successful and have no chance for failure. We execute that plan. We monitor and control that. Communication is key to any successful relationship and project. And we make sure that we are there for the long term, not only to make sure that we're successful on your initial implementation, but to make sure that you're happy with the product today and tomorrow. We do belong to 2 professional memberships that I wanted to point out this morning or this afternoon. One is CPA Associates International, which is an association of CPA firms around the globe that provides accounting and consulting software, consulting services, and as well as the International Consulting Network, which is an organization made up of partners like ourselves that implement accounting solutions for their clients. Both these organizations provide us the ability to share best practices with others in the industry, as well as monitor trends in the marketplace. Some of the industries that we support and service are listed here on the screen. I won't read through them, but we have a breadth of and depth of experience in these different industries and can bring our experience to the table to aid in that implementation of putting in accounting or ERP software for our clients. I wanted to point out, too, that I'm very excited about today's presentation. This is our first presentation around cloud technology. And I'm excited about the Intacct solution and the partnership that we just joined. I believe this is a game changer for our clients to increase their efficiencies and allow them to be more successful in supporting their clients and mission. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Linda, our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. So the area that we're going to talk about, as Tom laid out our agenda today, is really around cloud computing and getting you a little more comfortable with what is cloud computing and what are some of the current trends. So let's go ahead and chat about that. Now, one of the things that, you know, most of the presentations that I'm involved with, I am talking to companies like yourself and people in roles such as you are today. Whether you're, you know, a CFO or a controller, you're in this group of folks that really is the decision-making team. And the decisions that you make in your company are very critical, and they're very vital to the success of your business. And in some cases, it really doesn't matter what the technology is back behind that. It's more about you making the right decision. Now, when you think about making decisions, you really need to have the most current, accurate, up-to-date information. And this is where cloud technology comes into play. So if you were given a choice between managing, technology or managing information, what would you choose? I believe all of you would choose to manage that information and have that in a manner where you can make those business decisions in a timely and accurate manner. Next slide. So what is cloud computing? For those of you who maybe this is your first time to really, kind of get an introduction to cloud, understand what some of these acronyms are. Cloud computing is a way for solutions to be deployed over the internet. It's software as a service. Much different than some of you maybe are experiencing today. You may have a solution where you have what we call on-prem or on-premise solutions. And those solutions are where software is being loaded onto servers in your facility. And this is a completely different manner in which software is deployed. It is deployed over the internet. So when you think of applications today that you might be using, Google Mail is one that comes to mind. Some of you may be using a CRM solution like a Salesforce or a Microsoft CRM. You may be doing your banking. This is something that most of us are doing in some form or fashion. We've taken advantage of online banking. The beauty of this is that you have access to this data anytime. So wherever you are, my team at Intellitec today is in the state of Delaware, and I am sitting in the state of Maine. So, the technology that we're using here is allowing us to be anywhere, anytime, and deploy these types of events. And also, when I show you in a few minutes, I show you Intacct, you'll realize that you could be doing your accounting work from wherever you are. In a cloud computing environment, the vendor is going to provide all of the solution, that end-to-end solution, which includes the hardware and the software and all of that networking infrastructure that goes into place. And they're also going to be providing the support. So they're really going to take that whole package and they're going to supply it, rather than you having to manage that internally and have those people on staff and keep those people up to date and make sure that they are supporting your end users. The other big difference here, of course, is how you pay for this. It's different than when you have an on-premise solution where, someone presents you a contract and you're basically licensing software, you're buying software, and it's kind of like that Wheel of Fortune. Once you buy a prize, it's yours to keep. This is different in that it's pay-as-you-go subscription pricing. So some of the terminology, even in Intacct, when you go through implementation, will change and be reflective of that. You will add your users and you will subscribe to applications of software. So you'll see that subscription word come up even in your implementation. It's pay-as-you-go, meaning that you will look at an annual contract as opposed to a one-time purchase. It's also very easy to configure and integrate, and you'll see this when we get into Intacct, because I want to show you a little bit about how Intacct does remain flexible. The one thing that we know happens in businesses is that businesses change. The way your business is today may not be the way you are in 6 months or 6 years from today. We want to make sure that the solution remains the solution. And the only way to do that is to keep that flexibility to allow you to change the solution as your business changes. So you're going to see that today with the configuration and being able to integrate to other best-in-class applications. And then the deployment. My background is from an Oracle perspective, I'm used to going in and spending, 6 months, 9 months, 18 months in an implementation. With this type of a deployment, we're talking about 4 to 12 weeks is a typical implementation of a cloud-based solution. So the whole paradigm shifts here. It's a completely different thought process as to how do you execute it, how do you support it and maintain it, where does that come from, how do you pay for it, and how easily is it changed and flexible as your business changes. Next slide. So a little bit more just to re-emphasize the fact that we're becoming a very global, mobile type of country here. Everyone has several different devices, and so being able to have this cloud technology does allow us, both from a consumer perspective and a business perspective, to have the best of both and to be able to function anywhere, anytime. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about what is happening in the industry and what some of the trends are. If you look on the left-hand side, you see some of the other types of systems that you might utilize today for different reasons. As an example, you might be using Word and Excel. What is the cloud solution that correlates with that? Of course, you've got Google Docs, you've got Google Enterprise, Microsoft Office in the cloud. For customer management, there are a variety of customer relationship management applications out there, Salesforce and Microsoft CRM being two of them. For your payroll and HR, you may be using ADP or Paychex. We use Paychex and certainly take advantage of that cloud environment where I can just log in from anywhere to look at all of my payroll information. You may be doing the same thing for document or content management. And then, of course, accounting and financials. Intacct is certainly what we're showing today. There are many others out there that offer cloud-based solutions. And, this is where everything is shifting to. And if you're a person that reads some of the analyst reviews and some of the magazines that are out there, cloud is the hot buzzword. It is where everyone is moving to. So, this kind of gives you an idea that cloud is coming into the mainstream. Next slide. So as we talk about SaaS and SaaS as an accounting software solution, what are some of those key benefits that we see around a SaaS delivered model? Well, first of all, we tend to see more best of class. So, what we see is applications that are not doing everything. They are doing one thing, and they are doing it very well. They're identifying what best practices are. They are focused on an area of your business, and then they are open in architecture such that you can integrate other best-in-class applications into that application. So you end up with a very robust, very fine-tuned, specific solution to meet your needs and to meet all of your needs. We also see that rapid procurement. So you can be literally, you could sign an agreement today and a company could start implementing by the end of this week. That's how quickly things can be procured and you can start those deployments. Most of these cloud vendors are going to show you their solution via the internet. You'll find some that will come and spend time in front of you, do face-to-face presentations. That is exactly what I would expect many people to do from a more consultative type selling process. Certainly nothing wrong with that, but but it does allow us to lower that total cost of ownership because we are able to show you this and demo this over the web. The ease of implementation is really kind of goes without saying in that because this is a cloud-based solution and because many of those implementations are done over the phone, they're done over the internet, so people don't have to come on site, you don't have to pay for consultants to be in hotels. These are not implementations that are going to last weeks and weeks and weeks. Documentation, anything self-guided, all of that is there to make it easy for you to use that cloud-based solution. And then, of course, I already mentioned cost of ownership and lowering that cost. It's a pay-as-you-grow, so you're not buying software today that, you think that you're going to be of a certain size in 6 months, so you're having to buy what you need for 6 months from today. You buy what you need today, and in fact, it's not even a buy. Remember, it's a subscription. So you subscribe to what you need today, and as your business changes, then you add incrementally whatever it is that you need. So it's a much more of a phased approach. It's not, buy everything or buy nothing, which is what a lot of folks are used to. And then because everyone's using the same version of software, and this is a good thing, so don't view this as something that's a negative. It's a positive. Everyone's using the same version. What you want to make sure of is that you have the ability with this cloud solution to personalize or configure it to how you do business. Now, when we look at Intacct, you're going to see several ways that, again, you're using the same version of software as all other Intacct users are. You'll be able to see how you can personalize and change Intacct to meet your business needs. This is important. This is something that you want to make sure that you have on your due diligence checklist. Next slide. So one of the surveys or analyst reports that came out was from Gartner. For those of you who look at some of the Gartner reports and pay attention to what the analysts are saying and read some of that information, there's 3 different things that CFOs expressed concern over. And, it was around things that would impact their organization's effectiveness. One was, the effective sharing of information, and then also being able to facilitate that easier so that they could make decisions faster and so that they would have the data and the accuracy of that data to make the best business decisions. And then, of course, to reduce operating costs. If you think about software as a service, remember we're deploying this over the internet. This is real-time, up-to-date information, and it's being deployed in a model such that the vendor is taking care of the backups, the vendor is taking care of the updates and the upgrades. So a lot of that maintenance that you're used to doing yourself, the vendor is taking care of. So in all 3 of these areas, SaaS as a financial application being deployed as a SaaS model, it inherently mitigates all of these constraints. So that's just something that's just a natural when you move to a cloud-based type of technology. Next slide. Now this is called the kind of the wheel of products here. It's a little bit of an eye chart. I talked to this slide a little bit because it's important for you to see that this is not something that people are not gravitating toward. By that I mean that there are lots of products that are being integrated today, and they're being integrated using something called web services. So all of these, applications and these products are being integrated as best-of-class applications. So when you look at some of the companies around here, Expense Cloud. Expense Cloud is a company that has a cloud-based solution around expense automation. Takes the ability of your salespeople, your field technology people, anyone filling out an expense report has the ability to do it via this application. It will scan in all of your receipts. It integrates to American Express for your credit card charges. It integrates to other best-in-class applications. Another one is Clarizen and OpenAir. Those are two different products, both best-in-class around project management. So you see some financial applications being integrated with these project management solutions to round out an offering. Clarizen and OpenAir are project management applications that speak to resource planning. So, you might have project accounting in your accounting suite. What you're lacking there could be, how do I manage my resources? So if I have consultants that are out in the field, how do I manage them? How do I schedule them? How do I dispatch them? What happens when, Tom's assigned to go out for a particular project and he calls in sick? Who else has Tom's skills and his, background that can go and fill in for Tom because he's sick? And give me this view of all of my employees with all of their skill sets, and let me move them around in a calendar. Let me dispatch them. You might even think of this as, being able to manage field service in a way, except it's from a project management more perspective. So any of these examples here, and you may be using some of these products today. You may be an ADP user or a Paychex user. When you think about these applications, they're all, serious, proven applications. These are, these are not toys. These are proven applications that are helping you do the functions that you need to in your business. And then we're using web services to make that integration into accounting and financial management solutions. Next slide. So now that we know a little bit about, what's going on, what the current trend is, etc., let's talk a little bit about the benefits to finance organizations. So when you think about financials, again, just to drive this home a little bit more, every CFO and every controller that I've ever worked with over the last 20 years has said that they wanted to be able to push one button and see all of their information on the screen. They wanted to know how their business was tracking. Well, with cloud financials, it's here. We do it with dashboarding. We have access to that data. It's real time, and we have access to it anywhere, anytime. Next slide. Once we have, that information, we really want to look at what that does to us from, from an IT perspective. So again, you are probably today, you have people who manage this for you in-house. We're going to manage it for you. As a cloud vendor, we're going to manage all of the day-to-day operations and maintaining of the solution for you. We're going to probably provide better infrastructure than most any individual company could afford to buy on their own. We're housed in Fortune 100 data centers. Intacct, as an example, has a data center on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. We're doing continuous backups. We have the full disaster recovery, and we've been through the SAS 70 audit. If you're not familiar with SAS 70, it may be a term that you're not familiar with. The SAS 70 audit was developed by the AICPA, and it's really an in-depth audit of all of the controls and activities and objectives of our company. It's a very stringent type of audit, and so anyone that you are investigating or evaluating with a cloud-based solution, you want to make sure that they have been through the SAS 70 audit. And, you know, the reason that this becomes so cost-effective for you, besides, you know, us doing all of this background, keeping track of everything, maintaining, doing the backups, etc., is because all of these costs are amortized over thousands of companies. So no one company is paying for that. The same thing is true of, you know, when we update. And at Intacct, we have updates every quarter. So, you know, you're not saddled with all of that cost yourself. That is spread across all of the customers. Next slide. The cloud brings you closer to your vendor. Of course it does, because, you know, we're listening as a cloud vendor. We're listening to all of your customer feedback. I know at Intacct what we do is we track all of your suggestions. We post those. You have access to see what kinds of suggestions are coming through in our suggestion board, and you have the ability to vote on those because some of them may be more important to you than others. We listen to that feedback. Remember, this is a pay-as-you-go subscription, so we're earning your business. As any cloud vendor is, we're earning your business every month, every quarter, every year. We constantly are improving our products. So we have constant, you know, innovation of thinking of new ways and new areas that we need to move the solution into. And then deploying that is as easy and fast as at the end of each quarter when we you know, when we get through the quarter, we're looking to when we're going to release the next quarter, and you have plenty of advance notice. You go home on a Friday, come back on a Monday, and that update has taken place. Now, again, you have release notes, and you have plenty of time before the upgrade is done, but that's how easy it is. There's no loss of service. There's no downtime. There's no, you know, you can't use the system for a week until we get these upgrades done. Next slide. And then the ROI. And so this is the Jerry Maguire, just show me the money. What does it mean, you know, from a cost perspective? You know, what do you need to do, and how do you look at this from what is this going to cost and what is this going to save us? So it's important for you to understand all of your savings, and you know there's savings in three areas. One is around, you know, being able to improve the decisions that you're making and the control that you're able to have because you have better visibility. If I handed you yesterday's newspaper and said, you know, how much is this newspaper worth to you? You'd say, well, you know, it's not worth much to me because it's yesterday's news. However, if I could give you tomorrow's newspaper today, that would be worth a lot to you, especially if you were involved in the stock market. You'd say, oh, gosh, if I knew what the crystal ball was going to say for tomorrow, that would be fabulous. But the bottom line is having that information real time and being able to see it and make business decisions off of it is one of those key saving areas. And then, you know, the second area is, you know, making sure that you don't have any revenue leakage. Making sure that you are getting all of the tracking that you need around revenue and collections. And a lot of people don't have a handle on this. One of the areas around revenue management and making sure that your renewals are going out on time, making sure that things are flowing through correctly and that people aren't getting behind and not paying those contracts. Incremental revenue gains is a huge piece of your decision-making area here. And then, you know, reducing any of those hard system costs. So, you know, those are the three areas that you'll be able to see your savings. Next slide. And then, of course, there is a cost of doing nothing. So, some people say, well, we're just not going to make a decision. We've looked at some things and we've just decided we're just going to stay status quo. You need to consider a couple of areas. You need to consider, if you don't move forward, what is the consequence? And there always is a consequence. You came to the table looking because you had a challenge, an issue, a problem. We need to help you vet out how serious is that problem and what is the cost of that problem. And there's a cost of not fixing that problem. And you might not be able to put a handle on it immediately because you don't see some of those hidden costs. So you need to make sure and evaluate all costs, both direct and indirect. Next slide. So this is just an example of some of the costs here between on-premise solution and cloud computing. I'm not going to go into depth here, but just to show you that when you look at this, you see that it's like the iceberg. There's a little bit on the top, and in the different pictures here you see that there's a whole lot underneath that you don't see on the on-prem side. So even though the software license may not be as big a portion, you see that what's underneath the water that you can't see around hardware and maintenance and training and all those things that the vendor is going to supply for you in a cloud computing model, that's what's really going to drive your cost up for the on-prem solution. As opposed to in cloud computing, you've got a subscription fee, but if you look at what's below the line, you've got implementation, customization, and training, which, if you notice, you have that on the on-prem side as well, and it's higher. And then there's many other things that you don't have on the cloud computing side. So these are the, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to skip this slide to capture a little bit more time on the back end of the presentation. But this presentation will be made available to you, and that is a great checklist for you to use and just be able to see, where your cost savings will be. So when you get this presentation, take a look at that slide, look at those different columns, and it'll outline the cost savings to you. And then getting started with SaaS. So let's talk a little bit about what you should do to get started in a SaaS solution. So you should look at your overall process. You're going to want to build the business case, figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve, what your objectives are, and what's driving you to look at this solution. I always ask, why are you looking and why are you looking now? And those two questions really tell a lot of your story. You surely need to look at, what is your budget and, what are some of your staffing requirements. And then, how are you going to communicate this new type of model to your staff? How are you going to really gain approval from everyone? Because this is a very different mindset, and you're going to have some individuals in your team and in your employ today that will take on some different roles. And you, as a CFO or controller, you're going to take on a different role too, because you're going to be more strategic in your thinking as opposed to tactical, because you're going to have this information real-time, up-to-date, and be able to make those decisions rapidly with this cloud-based solution. Next slide. So some key considerations, look at your vendor, look at your vendor's reputation, certainly look at any of the regulatory compliance, do your, your T's and C's, your terms and conditions, all of your legal contractual documents that you want to look at. When you look at that vendor reputation, make sure that you're looking at both the provider and the implementer, if they are not one and the same. check their references, look at all of their statistics and their certifications, check for that SAS 70, make sure that they have some documents that you can review along that line, and then outline what your critical success factors will be. Next slide. You want to make sure that you have a service level agreement. This is a critical document, one that you probably have not used before. It's required. You want to make sure that it outlines the relationship, you know, what your responsibilities are, what the vendor's responsibilities are, that all your expectations are set and met. And you want to make sure that it manages the risk. One of the things that you're most likely trying to do is to mitigate risk. So you're going with least risk. And one of the things that Intacct offers, and you can check this out on the Intacct website, is the buy with confidence. And so this gives you the protection that you need. Next slide. Part of the SLA, that service level agreement, is really just to look at what does that buy with confidence agreement mean. And for us, it means, you know, the availability of the service. How do you perform, and what happens when for some reason the service is down? What protection do I have as one of your customers, one of your users, if the service is not available? And that's exactly what Intacct posts on their website. And you know, for the last, I think, 5 or 6 quarters that I checked, we were running at about 99-point-something% uptime, which means literally you're never down. But in the case that you were down, that's what the service level agreement protects you with and outlines and specifies what will happen. Next slide. And then other assurances and considerations. There's the SAS 70, and also, you know, it outlines what the disaster recovery is for, you know, if something were to happen, or what if you decided to end the service. And if you decided to end the service, how does that happen? What are your responsibilities? What are the vendor's responsibility? And then also talk to me about renewal. So you want to understand what happens when the term ends and it's time for renewal. So you want to make sure that you check out all of those considerations when you sign up with a cloud vendor. Next slide. And then the fact that you've got power in the relationship. You know, when you deal with cloud vendors, we're measuring revenue differently. We're measuring it on, you know, the monthly recurring revenue, and we're looking at renewals, and we're looking at churn. And we're interested in having you as a long-term customer. So when I say that we're earning your business as we go, that is exactly true. Our customer sat is running, you know, about 95 to 98%. It's important that everyone in the company is focused on customer sat, and that means that the customer gets to vote, and that vote counts, and it counts in many ways. The other thing is that, you know, we're interested in making sure to keep down our cost of sales. So we are using the tools that we have around references and customer testimonials so that we can keep our sales cycle time down, so that we can, you know, we can manage these sales and turn these sales quickly and get you implemented and ramped up quickly. So again, our implementation time would be anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks, and many of your other cloud providers would tell you the same thing. Implementing is a very quick process. You want to make sure that you understand everything that's included. So you spell out the support and the training and the maintenance, and make sure that you understand everything that's in your contract. Next slide. And then here's some real numbers to think about before we jump into Intacct. Many of the clients that I have worked with over the last 2 years, they've experienced a considerable amount of savings. In some cases, an average of 30% improvement in finance department productivity. They've been able to eliminate a week or a month during close and consolidations. You're gaining back 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days. You're gaining back people time and getting your books closed. So you can have your books closed in the first 5 days of the working month. You should expect payback in 4 to 6 months. So this is a very achievable, and we have customer testimonials that can support that. So when you look at these numbers here, these are some numbers that you can really take home and take to heart that other companies are experiencing, and they've done this because they have moved to a cloud-based solution. Okay, I think we're at the end where we can take a look at Intacct.
Okay, well, I'll flip the controls over to you here.
Okay.
There we are. Okay, you should have it now, Linda.
Okay, and you should see my screen.
Yep. See.
Okay, great. So we have about 15 minutes. I'm going to ask you on the line, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. I'm going to spend the next 10, 12 minutes as much as I can. I'm going to run through a few key things around Intacct. And I'm sure the folks from Intellitec, if you have any questions that we don't get to, they will follow up and get those answered for you. So
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So what you're looking at here is the Intacct Dashboard. Now, one of the things that I like to point out is that I am running today under Mozilla. However, we run on all browsers. The important part is that this is a cloud-based solution, and it's available anytime, anywhere, as long as you have access to the Internet. And, in fact, today, we are a mobile application. So we have people running the Intacct solution on their iPads. And, of course, that's a big thing. Everyone wants to have mobility in their solutions. Now, the dashboard is really that first step along having that visibility. I've logged in as a controller today. Perhaps you're a controller in your company as well. I have certain permissions and security. I have access to everything. I'm Carla Grace, and I can set my own preferences as well. Now, what's important about this dashboard is the ability to drill into information. So one of the things that, when I work with companies, it's really about getting to that information, having it at their fingertips. I'm pulling up a profit and loss statement here. It's going to give me the ability to drill into that information. Important to me, I'm getting ready to go to a meeting. I'd like to know a little bit about where this revenue is coming from. I've got a specific invoice here I'd like to drill into. Drilling into this is going to allow me to come to the original source document. So this is the sales invoice that was keyed in. I have all the history about that transaction, the fact that it came from a sales order and moved into a sales invoice. I know who created it, the date, and the time. So I've got the full audit here, which is pretty helpful to me because if I have any questions, I can go right back to that person. I also can see any of the payments that have been made against this particular invoice. So what better way for me to go into a particular meeting but to have all this information and to know exactly, how our company is tracking, where this revenue is coming from, and any of those questions that I have about a detailed invoice. Now, of course, as a financial person, balance sheet and profit and loss are a couple of the things that I'm interested in. But there's another way for me to measure my business, and this is something that we do very well in Intacct, and that is to manage operational data. So if you think about operational data, it's another way for you to be able to see how your business is tracking. One of the companies that I worked with not too long ago had warehouse space, and what they wanted to know was how much revenue they were generating per square foot. This is very easy to do. We set up square feet as a statistical account. We post a journal entry putting in their total amount of square feet in warehouses. And then I set up a report that's a monthly bucketed report. And I marry that financial information with that operational information to get the per square foot, the revenue per square foot. Now, this could be any type of operational information. It could be, if you're in the restaurant business, it could be the average ticket size, or it could be something to do with attendance or head count. So being able to look at your data and move it around in these dashboards is your first key to visibility. Now, creating these dashboards is something that you can do as a business user. You don't need to have an IT person do it for you. You can also do that through creating dashboards around a functional area, much the same as I've done here around purchasing. So whether you're doing it around a role, a controller, a CFO, or you're doing it around a particular area of your business, this gives you all the information coming right from Intacct to what we call a dashboard. And you can set up as many of these dashboards as you choose to. Now, one of the things that I talked about in my previous conversation was being able to be flexible. So, changing these dashboards is easy. You've got an edit function. You've also got an area where you can set up security. But the other way to remain flexible, of course, is to personalize the system to how you do business. So one of the areas that we have in Intacct is the company setup checklist. Now, this is typically an area that, you're going to come to this area when you get ready to implement. But this is an important phase here because, today you're implementing, and 6 months from today, you may want to add another location, or you may add another department. Being able to do that yourself is easy to do in Intacct, and you want to have that flexibility. You also may want to import data for conversion purposes, or possibly you may want some data to come from another system periodically, and you want to upload that. We've created some standard templates for you so you can move that data very easily in Intacct. The other thing that we allow you to do is to configure, and this is where the personalization comes in. Each one of our applications up here has what we call a configuration file. This one here is for accounts payable. It asks you a series of questions about how you want to use this application and how you want the software to perform for you in this application. Things like, what do you want your aging periods to look like? How do you want your warnings for people being over their credit limit? What do you want Intacct to do? Do you want it to give you a warning? Do you want it to stop you? Different functionalities based on you turning on and off these switches is what allows you to personalize each one of these applications to how you do business. So that's the flexibility that is built into Intacct from the company area. All of our applications come with what we call a process map. This is what you're looking at here. So this is everything in a pictorial format that shows you exactly where your departments are located and where your locations are, and being able to add those anytime you choose to is available as a business user. Once you've set your company up, then, of course, what feeds these dashboards is a lot of your reporting. To make this easy for you, we've set up something called the Report Center. And the Report Center is a way for you to have access to all of your different reports, whether they're financial reports or reports from one of our subsystems. There's about 150 standard reports in Intacct. And then with the financial report writer, you'll be able to create your own financial reports, as many reports as you choose to. In addition to that, we have something called the custom report writer. And that is a report writer that allows you to create, using a wizard, to create your own custom reports. Now, the beauty of this is that all of these reports are housed right here in the Report Center. To make it easy for you, we suggest that you create your own favorite reports menu. And this will allow you to execute, here's that same profit and loss report that you saw earlier, to execute reports from the report center by printing them, viewing them, exporting them, or even scheduling them with our Intacct scheduler. And this is a great tool to help you get back some of those days in your closing, because we're going to execute those reports for you unattended, and we're going to deliver them to your delivery list. So these are just a few of the highlights of Intacct around flexibility and around reporting and visibility that I wanted to share with you today. I want you to understand that, you know, being in a cloud-based type environment here, all of this information that you see on the dashboard is real-time information. The minute I go and enter a transaction, my reports are going to be reflective of that data. So it is, as you can see, it's updating it right here. So no matter where I'm at, I have access to the most current information. I want to thank the Intellitec group for inviting me today, and I'm going to stop here and open it up and see if there are any questions.
Okay, and I guess we do have a couple questions in there. Just wanted to just briefly give a little bit of have Rick give a little bit of an overview of why we Intellitec decided to partner with Intacct.
And primarily, there was two main trends that we were seeing with our clients, or realizations. The first was the feedback we were getting is that the recognition that the cost and complexity to procure, to configure, and to maintain the infrastructure to support these systems was becoming more costly and complex. And as Linda showed in her presentation, the ability to have that in a data center where you're not incurring those costs directly, not having to deal with backup systems and redundancy and disaster recovery makes a software as a service solution just so much more economical and feasible. The other trend that we were seeing was the realization that there's the fallacy that your data is more secure sitting in your data center on your premise behind a locked door down the hallway versus being maintained in a professionally managed data center. Typically, our clients will have an IT person or an IT staff or an outsourced IT provider, and they realize that these folks, while they do a very good job of maintaining the equipment, are not security experts. And typically we're finding that there's now a greater realization that by putting it into a professionally managed data center, the data is actually more secure. So those were two overwhelming drivers that our clients were giving us feedback on, looking for a software as a solution offering. It was over a year-long evaluation process for us to evaluate products out there in the marketplace. We literally were solicited weekly by different accounting software providers, and very confidently we selected Intacct. In short, because of the features and the functionality that Linda alluded to in her presentation, as well as the philosophy that they have for customer support, delivering A-level service and functionality, and having the same commitment to our clients as we do. So in short, that's why we selected Intacct and why we're so excited to be partnered with them today. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Tom, and we can address any questions that are there.
Yep. Okay. We do have a few questions that have been asked, and I'll just remind everybody, if you didn't notice, you can type a question into the question box down towards the bottom. There's also a hand-raising feature. If your question is a little more involved and you need to have your line unmuted, we can certainly do that, and you can ask your question verbally. But, excuse me, the first question, Linda, is while SAS 70 has been an important control standard, the AICPA has released SSAE 16 in 2010. Does Intacct meet this new attest standard?
Yes, we do. And if you need information, more information about what certifications we have, the person that really speaks well to this is our CFO. It's a gentleman by the name of Mark Linden. And while we can't give you that documentation. It's my understanding we can, there are some documents that he can share with you on that.
Okay, and the second question was, could you talk a little bit about the security, and I guess that's a reference to what Rick was mentioning about the firewall and having your data behind a secure center versus having it in an on-premise type of situation.
Well, for us at Intacct, as I said, we have 2 data centers, and they are Tier 1 data centers. There's one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. The East Coast is a mirror image of the West, and it's backed up every 2 hours. And there is all of the same type of security that you would imagine. No one gets to into that data center. No one gets to those cages where those servers are without, very strict requirements. It's identification, etc. I think it's even, they look at your eyes and all of that type of stuff. The type of security that's there is such that really no individual company could afford to pay what it would take to have that security in their own facility. So it's just, the security level is so high that you would not be able to match that.
Okay, it looks like we have a question. Hopefully I can unmute him here and let him ask the question. Okay, Lee, if you have a question, you can go right ahead.
Oh, great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Do you have a facility for multiple companies, all of which are interrelated, for which there would be consolidations and eliminations?
We do. And you may have seen that at the top of my screen when I was in Intacct, but Intacct comes in what I call different flavors. Basically, you could be a single entity, or you could be a multi-entity, and it could be multi-entity all U.S. or domestic, or it could be global. So we run the gamut from single entity all the way through global consolidation. When you set up those entities or companies, each one of those companies stands on its own, meaning that you have all the information about that company, and then you also have the ability to consolidate. So you can consolidate groups of companies together at your choice. You also have the ability to use multiple currency, and our multiple currency application is based on a file that comes from a service that's provided with Intacct from OANDA. So all of your currency and your rates will come from OANDA. And we keep track of that. We call that the Intacct Daily Rate. And you'll be able to consolidate across entities and across currencies.
That sounds great. In your consolidations, if you had sales of product from one entity to another, and therefore you might or might not have, a markup issue. So you've got, raised inventory in the receiving and need to do eliminations when you present the whole thing. You can do that?
Yes, sir, we can.
That's
we also find that there's a couple of benefits around our multiple entity, and that is, your security is set by entity. So if you and I are in different locations working for different entities, my security and your security could be set such that we couldn't get into each other's companies. Our security is set by entity. The other benefit that's usually attractive to people is inter-entity transactions. So if you have entities that are paying or receiving monies on behalf of other entities, we allow you to set up that integration or that relationship such that Intacct will make those transactions for you automatically based on the account numbers that you give us in the setup file. So we eliminate a lot of Excel spreadsheets because we are able to do those transactions automatically. Allows us to really create that do to, do from report that many people are creating today manually using Excel.
Okay, great. If we have any additional questions out there, again, feel free to type it into the question box or use the hand raise feature, and we can take you off mute and ask your question verbally. Let's give it a couple more minutes here if anybody has any last-minute thoughts. But again, in the meantime, I wanted to thank everybody for their time today, and thank Linda, obviously, for her presentation.
You're welcome.
Okay. And I guess if we have no other questions out there, we will be sending the slide deck out to everybody. Thanks once again for attending. And if you do have any follow-up questions, we put our contact information on the screen there. Okay, well, there's no follow-up questions. Thanks everybody again for your time.
Bye now.
Yep, thanks.